Hello and welcome to the show. I'm Martin Willis, your host. This is a little bit of a different show. First of all, if you are waiting on YouTube for the normal regular show and you wondered why it was 6 o'clock with Jim Lawrence, that was because of a few different things. But what I decided to do here, I was going to have a regular, hour show, and tonight I realized there's in the United States there's a vice presidential a debate at 9. So I had to watch my time, is what I'm getting at. But the bottom line is, I decided that I was going to kind of take a chance and take some calls, try to take some calls today or tonight, whatever. But I am in Nova Scotia, in Yarmouth, Nova Scotia. I just attended a couple days ago the Shag Harbour UFO Expo. A wonderful time, just a wonderful time. And it's such a pretty area. And I got to tell you, the weather here is so unusually warm. It's been just fantastic. It's shorts and t-shirts, and this is October. Just a couple of things. I do have Danny coming up at on a clip at some point this show, and that is if I run out of people that I'm going to be talking to. Also, tomorrow I'm going to be, if you look down in YouTube, and I'll also put it in other places, tomorrow at 9 a.m. live, I'm going to be with Ryan Sprague on his show, and that link will be down below. And we're going to be talking about, the Shag Harbor area. I know he's doing a documentary on that. He's also doing some filming up here, some ghost series or something. I didn't realize. It wouldn't surprise me that there's ghosts up here because for some reason, as rural as it can be, in little fishing villages and such, there's a lot of activity going on around here when it comes to UFOs. And you'll be hearing some of that as I talk with Danny a little bit. But the blog this week by Charles Lear is called A Zombie UFO Case. And basically, what it is, it's the Aurora incident back in 1897 in Aurora, Texas, when supposedly a craft hit a windmill and there was a crash and burn, basically. And people called it an alien all the way back then. I think they called it something not from this earth. Very unusual. Right now, I'm just going to show a couple of pictures. If you're seeing these live, I can put them also in the show notes if you're listening to just the audio. But this area is just fantastic. This is a lighthouse. Some people may have seen this movie. It's kind of a dark movie. I actually know the mother of the filmmaker, called The Lighthouse. That was filmed just 3 miles away. And you can see if you go, here's a picture up here. They made this lighthouse out of staging. It's not even a real lighthouse, although there is a real lighthouse there. But you can see we were walking out around there yesterday, and you can see where the lighthouse was. And so the whole thing was assembled just for the movie. And you talk to the locals here, and I don't know how many of you out there have watched that movie called The Lighthouse with Robert Pattinson and William Dafoe. Like I say, it's a very dark movie. It's well done. I watch it because my dad was a lightkeeper, so I have a lot of interest in lighthouses and not maritime things like that. So anyway, if you have seen that movie, this is just 3 miles away, and the coastline is just magnificent. I'm just going to pull up some of the pictures for those people who are watching live. This is outside of the hotel window here in Yarmouth. Beautiful sunsets, and you can see this is also out by where they filmed that movie. This is one of the places where you can actually see the sun set, over the ocean while you're here on the East Coast. And this is a really fun area with all these lobster buoys. Really, a lot of fishing villages here. And I got to tell you, this I think is a pretty little dory that's along the ocean side with the lighthouse in the background. But the people here are amazing. It's friendly. I hope people do come up to the Shag Harbor event and check it out at least once in your lifetime, because it's reasonable up here and very, very warm people, great seafood if you like that. This year I happened to be the MC for the event, and that was a lot of fun. And so I got to hang out with good old friend Bryce Zabel. It was good to see him and his wife and daughter and his friend that came along with them. They've been doing a lot of traveling lately, And I've always wanted to meet Chris Rutkowski, and here he is. He's such a great researcher in Canada. He also has these great surveys that he does once a year. And so that was a blast. And here we all are out underneath the Expo sign in Yarmouth. Starting, if you're facing it, starting to the left is Danny Reid, who I'm going to be talking to in a little bit here. There's Bryce Zabel, his wife Jackie Zabel, and that's Laurie Wickens. Laurie Wickens is a living witness to the Shag Harbour incident, which happened back in 1967. He was 18, I believe, at the time. It was a Wednesday, October 4th. He said he always makes sure he tells everyone he was not drinking. However, if it was a Friday, that may not hold the same. And I'm at the very end right there. But anyway, also, when you go to these conventions, you get to hang out with people, have, dinners with people. There's a bunch of us right there, including Jennifer Stein, Chris Stiles, Jim, who I spoke to last. And you can't see a couple of other people. One of them was Chris Rutkowski. But anyway, that's it for basically, the people and the beautiful scenery up here. There's so much to see. I highly recommend it. But I decided before I play the clip with Danny Reid that I would take calls. And when I say that I would take calls, if you would like to talk about yes, Darcy Weir was here also. I forgot to mention him. He's a great guy. I had so much fun with him, and a great presentation. And also, we showed his movie on one of the nights, and it was just a lot of fun. So if you'd like to call in, the phone number's up there. It's 855-472-5483. Love to hear from you, whether it's you want to talk about a sighting or ask me some questions or things like that. I thought I'd try to fill up some time with people that may want to give me a ring here. I'd love to hear from you again. That number up there is 855-472-5483. I know this is kind of a last minute, not really announced that I was going to be doing these calls, but I sure would love to hear from you. And if it's just a chit chat, as long as you can talk UFOs, I'm good to have you call in here. And hang on just one moment. Just got to get something. So anyway, I will accept your calls, and again, we can talk about UFOs if you'd like. We can talk about again, ask me a question. A lot of times, people in the audience will ask me things like, "Oh, you do think there'll be disclosure?" And I don't even know what to say about that, because I always bring up this time where someone in the 1955, I think it was, video that I saw on YouTube. And it was a guy with a fedora, and it was in black and white. And he's looking at the camera and he's saying, I just want to have some type of knowledge of what these things are in my lifetime. And that's what I've been saying, and what we've been saying all along. I don't know. Maybe we will never know exactly what they are. I think we're going to find out more the way the ball is rolling. Looks like I might have someone call in. Oh, yes, I have. Let me get this ready over here. And I'll see if I can do something with this like that. There we go. All right, I have Jim. Jim calling on line one. Hi, Jim.
Hi, Martin.
Is this the Jim that I did the recording with today?
No, this is Jim in British Columbia, Canada.
Oh, that Jim Reid. I mean, this is Jim in British. I'm sorry, you're a whole different. I'm getting Jim Lawrence mixed up with Danny Reid. I'm totally sorry when I saw your name. So this is Jim Reid. Welcome. And you're calling from British Columbia. Thank you. What a beautiful country you have.
Oh, yeah. I have big news here.
Okay.
I have found another Skinwalker Ranch near where I live. And people can search Port Mellon on Google Earth. It's in that area there. And it's mountainous, forest and stuff. And it's full of portals. And I first went through a portal over there in 1983 on a dirt bike. And of course, I didn't know what a portal was. And when I came home and told my friends, they didn't believe me, of course. But I kept going over there and finding the portals and going through and camping on the other side of the portal. And I would find different road systems like every time I went over there, right? So I I I couldn't tell anybody around here. Nobody would believe me, but I did write about it online quite a bit, and I have two or three videos on my YouTube channel about going through the portals.
All right. Well, why don't you explain? I'm going to be a little bit of a skeptic here, and I'm going to tell you to convince me that you're going through a portal.
You're going to tell me what?
I'm going to tell you that I'm a skeptic here, and I want you to convince me that you're going through a portal.
Well, like I say, I made 3 videos on my YouTube channel where I go into great detail. Great detail. But what I have to report now, I'm trying to be succinct here, but what I have to report today is that I finally met another guy and 2 more guys actually who've been through the portals over there. So they confirmed. So I'm over 99% sure of what I have found over there. And like I say, this is on my the stories are on my YouTube channel. I made videos about them. Now the thing is though. I met a young man who's a mountain biker, and I'm an old guy now. I can't go. I don't want to go through the portals anymore. I'm too old for that. But I met this young guy, probably 20. He's a mountain biker, and very different from me. And I walked right up to him, and I just started talking to him because we were in the vicinity. And so I asked him, "Oh, you ever ride your mountain bike over there?" And I didn't ask him any leading questions whatsoever. I just said, "Oh, have you ridden over there?" And he says, "Well, not on my mountain bike." He says he went over there with his friend in a 4x4, and he looked a little bit hesitant. I said, "Oh, did you get all the way to Port Mellon?" He says, "Well, yeah, we did, but every time we go up there, we find a different road system," he said, which confirmed. And when he said that, I said, bingo, that's exactly what I'm talking about. So now I have other witnesses who've been there. And the explanations, in my videos that I made there are like, you see some, like, I've had a lot of paranormal experiences going back to when I was 20 years old. A whole bunch of them. Met aliens and all kinds of stuff. But the portal thing, I was drawn up there because a native friend of mine said he was up in that area and he saw Sasquatch up there with another guy. So I interviewed the 2 guys separately. They had exactly the same story, and this was kind of why I was attracted to the area. It all he told me was up in the mountains behind Port Mellon, and so I was kind of attracted to that area, and that's why I kept going up there. But I never did see a Sasquatch up there, but I did meet a predator one time, and then on another occasion I saw a ghost logging operation, which scared me. That was the only time I was really terrified. Mostly I've had very friendly paranormal experiences, but that scared the heck out of me when I saw these ghost loggers operating ancient logging machines up in the mountains there, eh? That really scared me. But so yeah, I'm trying to be succinct here, but I've had a lot of paranormal experiences, including meeting aliens, and I call him my alien friend. He's 8 feet tall, and he just walks up to me in the daytime. I mean, I've never seen him get out of a spaceship, but he's 8 feet tall. He's got 4 fingers. About his hand is at least a foot long. His feet are very long and skinny as well, and he wears a mask on his face when he comes to visit me. And the first time I met him, I said, "Oh, you're wearing a mask." He communicates telepathically and verbally. He can actually speak. He's one of the tall whites. I don't know if you've heard of those ones. He's
Mm-hmm.
8 feet tall, but tremendously telepathic. And but he actually spoke English to me with his voice box, which was kind of funny. And he brought he brought 4 little guys with him who I assume are grays. They're all 5'2" and dressed up like humans, but they were very odd and funny looking. So it was a very friendly meeting. But I could see that he was not human. He sat down right beside me. We might have touched, I'm not sure, but I saw his hand from 2 feet away from my eyes, and I'm looking at his hands, and he showed me how it works. And he did that. He picked up a CD off my desk because I was sitting at a computer desk, and he sat down at the desk beside me, and he picked up my CD off my desk. That's how close he was to me. He scooped up my CD and took it. He actually walked away with my property, you know. Anyway,
Well,
I
hey,
can go on and on.
listen. Yes, and we have Jim. We have 3 other people stacked up behind you here. Thank you, but I just want to know what was the CD that he took.
Oh, it was John Mayall, my favorite jazz blues fusion album.
Wow. Well, maybe that's popular where they're at. But anyway, hey, thanks a lot. We have Phil coming up on line 2. Thank you.
Hi, Martin. I have
Hey,
potentially
Phil.
2 stories for you. You can take your pick. I can tell you a sort of a dolphin story or a Little League game story, or both. Which one would you like first?
I couldn't hear what the second story might be, Phil.
About a Little League game.
A Little League game? Is this in regards to UFOs?
Yes.
Oh, well, that's fine. Let's wait a minute though. You kind of intrigued me. We may have talked years ago about a dolphin UFO or something. Is that
Yes,
possible?
we did. Yes.
Okay,
we did.
let's
I
hear.
can tell
We got to
you-
hear. Let's hear that one first, and yeah, we'll go right into the next one.
Okay. Well, this was back in the late 90s. I was working at the Upjohn Company in Kalamazoo as a scientist. And I was
Oh,
sitting there talking to one of my buddies, looking out the window. I had a clear view of the north, and there was something very, very high in the sky. And I put the guy on hold and said, "Look, I got to go outside where I can see the not through a window." And this was at noon.
hey Phil.
And yes,
Phil, can I interrupt you? Are you on speakerphone by chance?
no, but I can.
Oh, okay.
Let me.
It's just not. It's
let-
not really clear. Okay, keep going.
Okay, I can fix that though.
Okay.
Let me do this.
All right. So I heard this story. He's fixing something. I heard this story. I'm gonna say, geez, it might have been 10 years ago, but when he said dolphin, it really rang a bell. Phil, are you still there? We may have to switch to another caller. Phil, are you still there? All right, maybe we can pick it up again with Phil at another time, but let's take line 3 with Robert. Robert, are you there?
Hi, Mark. Thanks for taking my call. I don't
Yeah,
have.
you're from Canada as well?
Yeah, I'm from Montreal, Canada.
Oh, hey.
Yeah, it's sort of the Canadian team show today. I know we had Lou Elizondo a couple weeks ago on your show. I just want to make a couple of comments. I mean, I think he's highly credible, and I believe most of the stuff he says. Right? I really respect him for what he's done as far as serving the military and how he's trying to bring disclosure in the forefront with working at ATIP and now writing this book. But I don't know. I mean, there's another school of thought from friends and colleagues that follow the ufology subject, thinks he's that big government disinformation guy, right? And when I hear him, I believe most stuff he says. But then last time, on most podcasts, he says he has remote viewing capability, psychic capability. I wish he would have left that out because to me, it kind of lessens his credibility. If he would have just stuck to the nuts and bolts, I think it would have been better. Also, he keeps claiming that he has this hitchhiker effect. After he studied this subject, he sees orbs. Orbs are constantly in his house. You would figure a scientific would think, hey, here's my cell phone. Let's take a video of these orbs. But he never once did. Like, where's the proof of that? I really want to believe it. And I do believe in most things, but I just think sometimes he lessens his credibility when he says he sees orbs multiple times, yet he hasn't thought of taking a picture or any videos of these orbs. So maybe we could kind of comment on those two things I just stated.
Well, I totally understand where you're going with this, and I, you know, I think Lou is a great guy. I think he's a sincere person. He's definitely a patriot. There's no doubt about that. You know, but there are some. I have to be very careful what I say because I never want to burn bridges.
Yeah,
So
for
I
sure.
just have to be careful. But I do understand exactly what you're talking about. And, you know, sometimes when you hear something like this, you kind of think you get that feeling like, ooh, you know, maybe, you know, I got to tell you, I had the feeling when I heard back last June when I heard Dave Grush come out and say about the crash retrievals and the aliens. I had that, ooh, maybe that's a little too much,
Yeah.
you know, but so I kind of get that feeling and I understand what you're talking about. And that's, you know, there's been a couple of times I myself have seen something in the sky that I think it could be a UFO. Something happened last year. And I think, you know, I have to watch. I'm not going to go and announce to everybody that I had another UFO sighting because I have to be darn sure that it's something unexplainable because I never want to hurt my credibility, you know. So I understand how I do believe that someone has to be kind of cautious in what they reveal if it can cause doubt. And I know someone, I'm not going to name any names, but I know someone that's very careful about that, who is a filmmaker who had a situation, you know, happen to him. And he has not been out there in a public way about um, basically, you know, as an experiencer or someone, an abductee, I want to say, he will not talk about it out there because he doesn't want to hurt his films. You know, some people may know who I'm talking about. I'm not going to give his name out there, but I do think that we, you know, when we're in a public venue and we're someone of that level, we have to be careful. And even if something is true, how many people are going to buy it? You know, so I understand where you're getting at. I don't know if that answers your
Yeah.
question.
Yeah, you definitely do because I think if you're gonna have great claims, then you need great proof, and I think sooner or later, I mean, the longer disclosure, you need the receipts, right? You need the receipt, especially if you see you constantly say you see these orbs. Maybe technologically you can. Maybe these orbs evade cameras. I don't know. I don't know if that's the case, but if you say you see orbs multiple times and you claim this publicly a lot and in your book, that'd be great if you could just show the public just one snapshot or like a 10-second clip to your cell
Yeah.
camera. And then I think the credibility really elevates instead of us having all these doubts, right? So that's all I have to say.
I understand that too. And, you know, his wife, who I really respect a lot and have been in touch with for a number of years, Jen, you know, she's claiming she didn't want anything to do with any of this stuff. And she's claiming that, you know, this is that she actually saw these things. But I understand of all people, you would think that he would have a camera ready, you know, and
Mhm.
taking pictures. But I do appreciate the call. I'm going to try to get to see
Thank
if we can
you.
get Phil back in here. And oh yes, Phil is back. So thank you so much. I really appreciate your call and your concerns.
Okay, Martin, thanks.
All right. Okay, Phil, did we have you back, Phil?
I hope so. Is this better?
Yeah, you sound much clearer.
Okay, sorry about that.
Yes, no
Anyway,
problem.
story number one, Kalamazoo, Michigan, late 1990s. I was working as a scientist at the Upjohn Company looking out my window one day at about noon, talking to a buddy on the phone. And I looked up high in the sky, beautiful clear day, and I saw what looked like dolphins surfing in the atmosphere, for lack of a better word. It was the weirdest damn thing. So I put the guy on hold and went outside where I could look at it more carefully. And this went on for about 20 minutes. They were white. They were really high in the sky. They were not seagulls because Lake Michigan's not too far from Kalamazoo, and I've seen plenty of seagulls. But these things looked like they were playing in the surf for lack, and they moved like animals. They didn't look like a UFO, but it was a UFO as far as I'm concerned, because I didn't recognize what the hell it was. But this went on, and I finally just kind of gave up and went back inside all the time, talking to my buddy out in Arizona, describing it to him. I reported it to the UFO Reporting Center several years later, but never heard any story like it. And I was perfectly sober in the middle of the day, and it was just a weird thing.
Now, yeah, this is it's fantastic to hear this, but I do remember, people reporting something that they thought looked kind of biological. There was this
Exactly.
stories of these jellyfish type. This was long before Jeremy Corbell's jellyfish UFO that recently came out. What is it, 6 months ago or whatever? Long before that, I've heard people talking about what they've seen in the sky almost look biological and look almost like a jellyfish moving around and things like that. So how many would you say there were?
8 or 10.
Wow.
It looked like a pod of dolphins. I mean, it was just the weirdest damn thing. And that
sounds like a Kenneth Arnold sighting.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
So do you want to hear part 2?
Yes.
The
Little
UFO
League.
stopped the Little League game, because this happened back in the 50s. I did not see it. However, my brother was playing in the game, and basically what the story was, it happened at the American Legion in Paris, Illinois, back in the 50s, which is my hometown. It's not too far from Chanute Air Force Base, which was in Champaign, Illinois. And basically these the Little League players were out playing a game, and an orb comes over the field, and they all stopped and looked at it. And then all of a sudden, jets came up and started chasing this thing around, and he essentially halted the Little League game. So
wow.
And I read this. I read this, and you probably heard of Frank Edwards' "Stranger Than Truth" or "Stranger Than Science." I can't think of which one it is, but anyway, Frank Edwards wrote this book, and that's where I first learned of this story, and I was intrigued by it. Because there was a name in there, John Ball, and John Ball was my cross country team's bus driver, and I went up to him. This is 10 years after the fact. And I said, "John, what about this?" And I read him the story. And he said, "Yep, that's exactly what happened."
Wow.
And then I found out that my brother actually played in the damn game. So what made me really, really wonder about this whole thing was because that book, Stranger Than Truth or Science, whichever, had a lot of weird stories in it. And everything in the story that I read about UFOs stopping the Little League game was factually correct, according to 2 witnesses that I knew personally. One of them being my brother. So it kind of had special meaning for me.
What does he remember?
Anyway, just basically that they were playing a game and everybody stopped because of this light that came over the field. And then the jets showed up and were chasing this light around in the sky because, Paris is in a very flat area. There's no hills, no trees to speak of. You can see for a long way. So you could see what was going on all around you.
Wow. Well, excellent. Well, Phil, thank you so much for the call. And that dolphin story is just so weird. I love that one.
It is very, very weird. I wish I had more to offer on it, but I can assure you that it actually happened.
What year would you say that was?
In the late 90s. I'd say 97, 98, something like that.
Yeah, and at that time, we didn't have our camera phones or a camera handy too often.
Right.
Yeah, so I would imagine did you think of taking a picture of it, though, when you saw it?
I did, but, this was... I don't even think I had an internet phone or a cell phone at the time because I think the cell phone hit a couple of years after that.
Yeah, and they were flip phones and they couldn't take any pictures anyway to speak of.
Right.
But anyway, yeah. Excellent. Well, thank you, Phil. I really appreciate the call. That was very interesting, especially the one where you spoke to the bus driver and plus your brother knew about it. That's pretty
Yeah.
amazing. Yeah. And that's
Right.
funny. The ones with the jets chasing them, you think there'd be records of things like that.
There are. I
Okay.
mean, if you can find that book, it's the title of the story is UFOs Stop Little League Game. You can read
Yeah.
exactly what I just said.
Yeah. Excellent. All right, Philly. Well, you take care, huh?
You too. Bye, Martin.
All right. Thank you. All right. Next, we have Daphne from Maryland. Daphne, welcome.
Hi, it's Daphne.
Oh, I'm sorry, Daphne.
Yeah, that's okay.
Sorry. Okay.
People mess,
The
they
spelling
mess with
is
my name all the time.
yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Daphne. Thank you. Thank you very
Hi.
much for calling in. And how can we help you today? Did you have a sighting you'd like to talk about?
No, I'm not an experiencer, and I've never seen a UFO. But what I did want to ask you about was the recent failure of the Schumer amendment to the Disclosure Act
Yeah.
that totally failed, which was very disappointing. And I'm just wondering if they're going to plan to bring this up again sometime in the future.
Well, I hope so because I heard about that. It is very disappointing. I remember I don't know how long ago it was, but I saw like on Twitter, "Oh no, it's gone" or something like that, and I said, "No, no, not again." But I think if enough people will cause a ruckus, I think right now, of course, we're getting close to the election. Everything's kind of jumbled together and, no one's going to pay attention to too much right now. But after everything settles down and we move on, people are talking about hearings again, which I would love to go to again. That was such an amazing experience. But I'm not sure if the problem with the hearings is they may not give any time. They may say, okay, we're having this hearing and it's Friday, coming up. They don't seem to give a lot of time for something like that. But, I think it's disappointing. I think what the first Schumer rounds that they were trying to put through, I was listening to, Ross Coldhart and Bryce Zabel talking about that. And Ross Coldhart made a very good point. If there's eminent domain, it's like a step too far that these private companies that supposedly have this hardware of crashed retrievals or whatever they are that they're trying to reverse engineer, perhaps they have, such a strong, large investment of time into these things that they're not going to want to give them up. If they could change that wording to something along the lines of just acknowledgement that you have, you have something or you're working on something. If they could change it, maybe that would loosen things up. And maybe once they would admit that, maybe it's too much to admit. But so what I'm getting at is, I'm not sure if we can have what type of changes would have to be made in order for that to go all the way through without, the powers that be, knocking it down.
Yeah,
What
I thought that was with the original proposal was that there was going to be some independent body that was going to be presented with all of this, and then they were supposed to decide, what was released to the public and what wasn't. Of course,
Well, that makes total sense. And was this in the latest one?
No, that was in the original, and
Oh.
Congress got rid of that for some reason.
Yeah.
That was in the original proposal, and I thought that made perfect sense. But
yeah, but that does, because then if there's a national security type of situation, that could be addressed at that time. So yeah, that would
right,
make
it was
sense.
going to be made up of science. It was supposed to be made up of. They had a whole, it's real specific. It would be a scientist, military person, yada yada. I can't remember. It was like 7 or 8 people would be on this board or whatever you want to call it to make that decision. But the other thing is, what I'm wondering is after the election, whether we will see these Senate hearings or not. They were talking about it in September, but you're right, with what's going on here in the United States, as you know, that's not going to happen. So
Right.
anytime real soon, anyway. So
Not real soon, but it would be good, next year when things settle down. I
yeah,
think the needle is moving, the ball is rolling. It would be a shame if there wasn't any forward movement enough to keep this thing going. I don't know who, like to say the last time, we had Ryan Graves, David Grush, and David Fravor. Those were, stellar witnesses. I'm not sure who they would have in the next if they had, witnesses that they'd like to, interview live like that again. If they could come up with three that would have, that type of impact, it would
well,
be
they can't even seem to get the witness protection off the ground, so that some of these people that are willing to come forward would, they haven't been able to get Congress to, waive their NDAs and that kind
right.
of stuff, so they can talk. So,
Yeah, that would
yeah.
that is a problem, and I know that was with the situation with David Grush, like they couldn't take him into a skiff because he lost his clearance or something like that, and which is all
Yeah.
kind of silly if someone had it at one point and has information.
Right. Well, even the hearing that you went to, my understanding was there were other witnesses that pulled out right at the last minute.
I heard that too. I never knew who
Yeah.
they were.
Yeah, they didn't
There were
say.
rumors, but yeah.
Uh-huh. Okay.
So, but anyway,
Okay. Well, those are my questions.
all right. Thank you so much for calling in.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye now. Okay, at this time we don't have any other callers online. If someone doesn't call in right away, I think I'm going to share the video with Danny Reid. So we might as well. I'll tell you what this is going to happen here. If someone would like to call in and stay on hold, this video is about I think about 14 minutes, and it was a pleasure. I got to say, Danny Reid helps put this Shag Harbour. Okay, Bobby. Oh, yes. I guess you can't call in, Bobby. So, because I know you're working. So, Bobby wants to know what scary or disturbing aspect do you think Lou spoke about in his book? Well, I read his book. So, I can't really say, I mean, he did mention that, the orbs in his house. Actually, we do have another caller just called in. All right, this is the problem with doing a show live. I never know what's exactly going to happen. So I'm going to hold off on Danny Reid's call right now. But to finish the answer with you, Bobby, those orbs that actually the caller that called in talked about that thought it was basically a step too far. That sounded pretty scary to me. But anyway, I think I'm going to take this call now. And James, welcome to the show. Where are you calling from, James?
Calling from Berkeley, California.
Oh, okay. I know that area pretty well.
Yeah.
I used to work right in on Telegraph Ave in Oakland at
Okay,
an auction house there. So welcome. And do you have a question or comment?
Yeah, question. I've some of the kind of info from different sources recently has been kind of depressing or scary in the sense that it's kind of well, anyways, it has kind of a darker tone to it, and I'm just wondering, if indeed let's just say the government was allowing humans to be taken in exchange for technology, and so clearly, like against our rules, clearly against ethics, any kind of ethics. I mean, wouldn't I would assume that military individuals like Grush and even Hal Putoff, and seems like they are in the know, that they would have the duty to like reveal it and just do the catastrophic disclosure.
I see what you're saying, like forced disclosure. Pardon me, like forced disclosure more if there's like a malevolent part involved. Is that kind of what you're getting at?
Yeah, and then there's some talk of within the next few years some catastrophic events, let's just say. So
well, I'm not so sure about that.
About.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard some things, of course, and I'm not so sure about the sources of those claims. When I started to look into them and questioned and went right to actually a former government official and talked to him directly about that, and I don't think his sources, that the stuff that he's putting out there, are trustworthy. And listen, I got to tell you, we're getting really close to the time. I didn't realize that this adds up to a time where I have to go off the air right after this clip. So we're gonna have to call it that for now. But I really do appreciate the call. Thanks for calling in, James. Okay.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye. All right. So now this is the clip of Danny Reid, which I sat with just a couple hours ago. Here we go. I'm here in Yarmouth, Nova Scotia, with Danny Reid. Danny, welcome.
Thank you, Martin.
It's been a real pleasure working with you. I thought you did a wonderful job with this event. For every time I was here in 2017, of course, that was in a whole different location. Where was that one held?
That was held right at the Interpretive Center site in Woods Harbour.
Yeah.
That was our 50th anniversary.
That happened before.
And that was
right.
2 years before my involvement.
Oh, it was? Yeah.
So I moved to this area about 10 years ago and really only became involved 6 years ago. So the 50th anniversary was a big, big deal. But that was prior to me being involved and taking part.
Yeah. Were you there at that event? Did you
I was not. I was actually totally oblivious to it.
Now, there was a pilot, if I remember right, at that event.
Oh, yeah. There was a pilot. I thought you meant a pilot from a movie. Yeah, no, there was the Pan Am pilots. There were 2 Pan Am pilots that saw a craft. I believe it was the night before the Shag Harbour incident on October 4th.
Yeah.
There was also Air Canada pilots that saw it the night of. And I believe it was the Pan Am pilot, one of them, that came and spoke at the 50th anniversary in 2017. That's right. Yeah.
And now I'm going to ask you this question because, I've never asked you this question all the times we talk. Do you have personally an interest in UFOs?
I have a huge interest, but no sightings or any, I wouldn't consider myself, I'm not an experiencer. I've never had a sighting, but ever since I've been aware of, what's in the cosmos potentially, I've always been curious since age, let's say 5, 6 and up. I'll tell people this. I remember probably about when I was 7 or 8, my mom would let me stay home from school to watch the Apollo missions. Rockets.
Oh, really?
So fascinated with space science and rockets.
Did you see the 1969? That was in July.
I would have been 4.
Yeah.
So I was aware of it, but I don't really remember it.
But,
but the missions after, and I remember walking home from junior high to watch the space shuttle land.
Oh, wow.
Just because I would get out of school.
That's
always
nice.
had an interest in it.
Yeah. And, for the most people I talk to kind of say the same thing, that it would be really, really unusual if we were the only thing, if we were the best that could be done.
I think they can improve on me.
Yeah.
No, when ever since a young age, when Star Wars came out, Close Encounters, but Star Wars came out in 77, I was 12. That's when it really kicked in, just gazing up at the night sky and, the thought that the universe goes on forever and learning about how many, even back then, how many galaxies, it's unlimited, right?
Right.
And how many stars are in each galaxy. To think that there's not life somewhere
Yeah.
And what are they doing? What are they up to? What are they thinking? Are they looking down? It just, yeah. It's
Well,
so
I've
interesting.
I've said to astronomers and astrophysicists that have been on the show over the years, if there is an ending to space, what does that look like?
Is the wall.
Is it a wall?
Is it right? And I mean, more
and to what? A wall to what?
Yeah, and that's just that you cannot wrap your head around the
That's
fact that you think it goes on forever.
Right. Yeah.
And I can sit and
Yeah.
you get me going, but
second
like the Big Bang. So if it happened, 3.4 billion years ago, if that's what
13,
that number, 13.4.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the Big Bang. So what happened 13.4 billion years before that is where my mind goes.
And I've talked to people about that. I've talked to astronomers and astrophysicists, both. I always ask them the question, first of all, do you think the Big Bang theory is correct? And most of them say all the evidence right now that we have points to that. Then I said, okay, what was before the Big Bang? And I get all these wonderful answers. Some of them saying, well, this could be a cycle.
Right.
Some say, well, maybe time didn't exist prior to that.
Right.
You know
That's
what I mean?
What I always.
It's such a. I mean, you can.
Well, again, therein lies the mystery of the whole thing, right? Yeah.
Right.
So,
which
exactly.
is fascinating.
It's crazy fascinating.
Yeah.
And it always makes you wonder. Yeah.
So when did you first? Well, we'll talk about the event. I think it was a big success, and such a lovely place. And what I'm going to do is when I talk, this is pre-record because of the timing, but I'm going to talk live tonight. And people have already seen this. I think I'm going to play this at the end. They've already seen the pictures I'm going to put up from around the area. Such a beautiful area, and the weather is so nice.
Lucky. Yeah, things fall into place for the whole Expo experience. I think location, time of year, the weather, the whole.
Yeah, but the weather. I mean, I was in shorts and a t-shirt.
Yeah,
I mean, it's been amazing.
A little unseasonably warm, but it's pretty nice.
Yeah, that part of global warming, I like.
Yeah, we're gonna have palm trees in 20 years.
Yeah.
We'll be selling oranges.
Yeah. So before we get into the event, I just want to ask you: are the cases that you think are really, really fascinating? Are they Canadian or are they elsewhere?
There's a good question. I would say that the only real case that I am aware of is the Shag Harbour case. My interest doesn't lie so much in, studying or reading about specific cases, but just the whole general fascination of it. And I guess the more I'm learning about it, the more books I've read about it, which really has only been since I got involved with the Shag Harbour incident. The idea that there's craft over military bases in the U.S., the nuclear connection fascinates me.
Oh, yeah.
I know quite a bit about the Shag Harbour event. I read a book on the Roswell event and wasn't all that fascinated by that. It's
Which one?
Fascinating.
Do you know who wrote it?
It was Area 51.
Okay.
And in the book, it said that the craft had, Russian markings inside. And when I listen to our speakers we've had here at the Expo, it kind of contradicts that. So
yeah,
I'm not really sure.
That's such a tough one. And so many years ago, and some of the myths become realities and vice versa. And it's so hard to figure that one out. Lou Elizondo in his book, and he said, I don't know if it was my podcast or not, but he said that it was a real event.
Well, that's what I'm hearing. Yeah.
Yeah.
And like I said, that contradicts what I read in Area 51. But the question about what cases fascinate me, absolutely, it isn't just the Canadian incidents or any specific incident so much as just the phenomenon ongoing all the time.
Right.
That's what fascinates me.
Right.
And it makes me more curious.
And then we have this great speaker, Chris Rutkowski, that has the survey he does every year. And that's fascinating.
Yeah.
And there's so many sightings. And you have so much landmass compared to a lot more landmass, I believe, than we do as far as the United States.
I think Canada's the second largest country.
I would think it would be third. Oh, I think it would be China, Russia, and Canada.
Yeah.
I think.
It's pretty bad being Canadian. I think geographically we're number 2. I don't think China's bigger geographically than Canada, but maybe.
Yeah.
But population-wise, I mean, put me on the spot here, but it always blew my mind that there's more people in Manhattan than all of Canada.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's just that. Yeah, we're pretty
That's
sparse.
right.
There's a lot of forests and lakes. And,
Yeah. Well, it's beautiful here. You can drive for many miles and see, nothing but trees. It's quite nice, actually. Yeah. I like it.
When you fly into Halifax, it's amazing at how much forest there is and how tiny the population populated land is.
Yeah.
And how much of our land is cleared, even just here in Nova Scotia. And then you look at Ontario and Quebec, it's even more so.
Oh, yeah.
Right? It's just
Yeah.
really just,
Right.
miles
So-
and miles of forest.
Right. So when did you very first hear about the Shag? Do you remember how old you were when you heard about the Shag Harbour?
You know, I don't. I've always been aware, and I've always been aware that in Nova Scotia there was a crash and it happened in Shag Harbour. Probably heard it like in my early teens. And I grew up in Digby, which is an hour up the highway from Yarmouth.
Yeah.
And
Came in on the ferry that way.
yeah, and I'm kind of embarrassed to say that I honestly never paid a whole lot of attention to actually where Shag Harbour was, because it wasn't into really researching these events. But when I moved to Yarmouth, the job I had working for a bank takes me down to Barrington, and I go right past Shag Harbour on the highway.
Ah.
And when I saw that sign, I'm like, that's where Shag Harbour is. So I got to pull off sometime, and that's how really it got kickstarted.
Is that right? That's how it, that's
I
great.
pulled off the highway, went into the interpretive center, and saw where the actual crash happened, which is just down the road.
Yeah.
From the interpretive center, bought a couple books that Chris Stiles wrote, and there's no looking back.
Speaking of that, it's still to this day, people are kind of grouping together. It kind of feels like the same event, the Shag Harbour and Shelburne. Two different events. Shelburne was 1960, and it was four U.S. and 4 Canadian military vessels. I think that's what it was.
I think the Shelburne event had 13
total
vessels in total doing that exercise.
Yep. But I mean, just that whole story.
Yeah.
People. I mean, I remember I had Chris Stiles on a few years ago, and I said, so that event where they went down, the divers went down and saw the beings, that was not Shag Harbour. And he said, no, but all through his dogged research that he did.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. The two books I read, those two events were one and the same, right? And he thought for many years that was the case, but now that the Shelburne story is broke, I guess, or, uncovered by Chris, we now know it was 7 years prior. And that's probably a bigger case.
I know.
Than the Shag Harbour incident.
Sounds like
right?
it. Yeah.
It is, but it's because it's only been recently uncovered. Really, it was just a bit of an after story to the Shag Harbour incident. But when you read about the news story and the witnesses, what really took place, because what happened with the Shag Harbour incident is still an unknown. It's a known fact that it happened.
Yeah.
And there was an absolute craft there, tangent item, whatever item or, vehicle out in the ocean that crashed. There's no doubt at all about that because of the witnesses and so on. But, whether it dimmed its lights and flew away or sunk, what happened is unknown. But in Chris's book about the Shelburne incident, there's craft on the bottom of the ocean with beings outside of them.
So I want to just recap a little, just for the listener and person watching this, I did take some short reel clips of Chris Stiles kind of describing what happened, and they'll be on my YouTube channel. But basically what happened was they were doing a exercise, basically, and it was between the Canadians and Americans. And they had divers that they sent down like through this exercise. They were only in about 47 feet of water, and which is not very deep at all. And they could clearly see these two disc-shaped craft sitting on the bottom, and outside it appeared to be that one of them was being worked on somehow.
Right.
And there were beings, and I asked Chris while we were there the other day, I said, did the person that witnessed this, the divers that witnessed, did they say that what the beings look like, and were they wearing any breathing apparatus of any kind? And he said they were not wearing any breathing apparatus, which kind of makes you kind of rethink everything. Like if these things actually are living underwater, or whatever they are, maybe they don't need breathing apparatus.
Yeah.
But anyway, the diver was very reluctant to give too many details about it, and it's too bad. But Chris also claims that there was a lot of footage taken of it. These things.
He thinks there's a video somewhere.
Yeah.
And he did say that the water was pretty murky, and there can be a lot of sediment in the water.
Yeah.
And so the visibility probably wasn't that great. But yeah, the divers apparently could not see any kind of like scuba gear or breathing apparatus. They were just outside. So,
and sort of like grays in a way.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
So really hard to imagine what was going on there. But the footage, the video they shot, where is it? What happened to it?
Right. Does the U.S. have it?
That's just what I was going to say, right? Again, a lot of these things get muddled, but was it sent to the U.S. for them to study, and where is it, and is that going to be made available?
Right. That would be.
Well, that would be everything.
That would be everything.
Yeah.
So, what did you think of the event overall? This is like I said, it's the third one I've been at, and the second one I've been here, and I love it.
Right.
I think it was. I like the spirit of the people, and the attendees, and I think it was great overall.
Yeah, we think. A little bit of the history. They've put on an event pretty much every year to commemorate the October 4th '67 crash in Shag Harbour. When I got involved, the first one I went to was after the 2017. I think the one I went to was in 2019, and it was fairly small. I think the price to get in was $5. The PA system was a little bit, not the best.
Yeah.
And the stories that were told again gave me goosebumps. And I said to myself, I'd pay $100 right now to sit and listen to this. And I'm amazed that there was only about 15 people there.
Wow.
So I'm talking to Chris, I'm talking to Lori Wickens, one of the witnesses. They were the organizers of it. And I said, it's a shame that there's just not more people in our local area that are aware of this. Because I have friends that are just interested as much as I am about it. So really, that's when we started planning this UFO Expo. And we expanded outside of the town of Shag Harbour. So we now hold the main conference part here in Yarmouth.
Yeah.
Because it's really the only area that will accommodate an event like this.
Right. Yeah.
And we've attracted world-class speakers such as yourself.
Oh, thank you.
Ufologists, we've had Nick Pope, we've had, top people. And
Bryce Abel was here this year.
Bryce was here, Chris Rakowski.
Yeah, great researcher.
Darcy Weir.
Darcy's a blast.
Yeah. Darcy is a blast. Yeah. But we think, prior to us, I guess, putting this on, a lot of people that go into the Interpretive Center in Shag Harbour say that, this really is Canada's Roswell.
Mm-hmm.
And when you think about how well Roswell incident is well known.
Yeah.
And maybe how our incident is not quite as well promoted or well known.
Well, they call it the Canada's Roswell.
Yeah. So we want to get the message out there, and to hold the event on the anniversary of when it actually happened, and to bust people down to the actual crash site. Yeah. I think we have something pretty cool.
It is really great.
And weather-wise, it is the best time of the year to kind of visit this part of the world. Right?
Yeah. So, and there's so much to see, out here, that Cape Fortune, how do you say it?
Cape Fortune.
Fortune is just beautiful.
Lighthouse,
yeah. And I'm going to be showing pictures of that.
Yeah. It's a neat part of the world. It's a neat place to visit. We have the Cat Ferry. I'm sounding like a Nova Scotia promotion guy now, but we have the Cat Ferry that runs from Bar Harbour right to Yarmouth.
Bahaba, as you say.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you can literally walk off the ferry, walk right to the Grand Hotel.
0.3 of a mile.
Yeah, where we hold the event. And then being in Canada, so for our US, people that attend, it's a 30% discount because of the exchange.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's a pretty neat, the whole event we think is a pretty interesting, the timing, the location, what we offer, economics of it is pretty
cool.
cool.
The economics, you can have yourself a really great weekend and not spend a lot of money. Really. That's what it boils down to. Yeah. And one of the listeners that I had to my show came all the way up from West Virginia, and he was just thrilled to be here.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So no, it's a good thing. So you can look for it every year about this time, right?
We already have next year booked. It's always going to be right around the anniversary date, which is going to be the last weekend in September, first weekend in October.
Do you happen to know that date right off the top of your head?
I can look. It's
it's like either the very last of
it's going to be the first weekend in October next year, I believe, because we have it closer to the actual
the
October 4th date.
Yeah.
Our event this year, we booked it as close as we could when the hotel space was available.
And pretty soon we'll be coming up on 60 years. Can you believe that? Just
that would be a big
3 more years.
I know, it's crazy. Time flies.
Yeah. All right. Thanks so much. It's been a real pleasure.
Thanks.
Yeah. Okay, so in 2025, it actually does fall right on October 4th, which is the anniversary date. So that's here in 2025 next year. Thanks so much, everyone. And remember, Dan Carlson will be back here with us next week on Tuesday. And do not forget to keep your eyes to the sky.